What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at Deathbound, an upcoming Souls-like due out sometime this year, though no official release date. I'm bringing you a look at what is a demo for the game, provided by the game's publisher, after they asked if I wanted to take a look at it. And while I still think it's in a little bit of early stages, let's say, it did do a few cool things I wanted to talk about, so here we are. But to set the scene a little bit, Deathbound is a game that puts you in a weird intersection between medieval fantasy and faith alongside previous technological marvels. I wouldn't exactly call the game post-apocalypse by any means, but in the past, a technologically advanced society rose and fell, though by technologically advanced, I mean it seems to be roughly modern-day standards. But in the wake of that society, a more medieval one has since risen, and these are people given over to deep religious beliefs, chief among them being that they worship death, which puts our character in a bit of a precarious position because we play as not one character, but rather 8 characters in one. A little more specifically, you are the result of a failed experiment that was made in an attempt to gain eternal life, because at odds with, of course, the death cult is the cult of life. The end result of this experiment, however, is simply that you are able to absorb the essence or soul of fallen warriors and take on their aspects. There's going to be roughly 8 of these, and at any given time you can have 4 of them bound to you as a set of loadouts, if you will, that you can then swap between, each with their own abilities and approaches to combat, which includes a move set, of course, but also comes with a few other quirks, because if any individual character you're playing reaches 0 health, then you die and you reset back at the appropriate spawn point. But they all do have their own individual health, so you can swap freely between them to sort of lengthen your life by making sure you have health to take any individual hit. And then as you attack enemies, all of your characters will slowly regain health. Though perhaps as a byproduct of this, the equipment system is relatively tame as a result. There's just a couple artifacts and more generic equipment that you can use to increase your stats. And what's more, when you level up, which is pretty much like every Souls-like, kill enemies, grab your currency, take it back to a checkpoint, which is the level up screen. But where it does differ a bit is that rather than increase individual attributes, you will increase certain nodes along this map here that then have cumulative effects for all of your characters outside of the special nodes that are individual to them. Another thing you can do at these checkpoints, though, is bind all of these essences and mix and match them, because while it's easy to pick the 4 you like the most, you also have to take into account essentially whether or not those essences like each other, as some of them are ideologically opposed. Having those 2 equipped will give you a buff and a debuff, whereas other characters that get along well and synergize with each other will just give you a buff, which gives you a little more to consider beyond just their general movesets. More directly in combat, when you're freely swapping between these guys, you can use this to set up specific combat abilities known as morph strikes. Basically, as you attack enemies, you'll build up the sync bar down at the bottom there, which is going to allow you to do morph strikes, which are pretty much what they sound like. They're when you attack and then switch from one character to another to do a big, devastating, damaging ability. There's also a similar system with dodging. The one thing in particular you do have to watch out for is that your max stamina in this game is limited by your max health. The more damage you take, the less max stamina you have, per individual essence, of course, as you can just swap to someone who has more health and thus more stamina. But ultimately, that essence system is why I wanted to share this video with everybody today, as I thought it was an interesting blend on more action RPG mechanics and a Souls-like at the same time. Combine that with a relatively interesting world, and I think Deathbound might turn out to be an interesting title, but I do have some reservations about this one. That said, with this just being a small demo showcasing a few things, it's hard to say how any of this will pan out at the moment. For starters though, and the stuff I think most likely is just because it's a demo, there's a lot of lack of just technical things that would be nice, such as being able to remap any key at all. But there's also, I would say, more serious stuff that I think doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's a demo, such as the camera and lock-on system being terrible, as is tradition with many of these games. But beyond just those things, I think with each individual essence that you have having a set loadout in terms of attacks and equipment technically, I'm curious what, if any, sort of combat progression this game can really bring besides bigger numbers. As to my mind, while I enjoy the ideas at play with this system, I think outside of just mixing and matching essences here and there really won't be much variation in what you're doing, as each essence has its strengths and weaknesses and you're going to pick the ones you want to use, each of which has a set amount of abilities. So I'm curious what they will try to do progression-wise beyond just those stat boosts from the level ups as it stands. But for right now, I kind of just wanted to put this game on people's radar, as I think it is doing at least a few interesting things, and if anything, I'm quite curious how some of it pans out when this game officially releases. In the meantime though, I think that's pretty much going to do it for this video. I certainly hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about some of this down in the comments section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Regardless of any of that though, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.